Hello, today everyone, I have a new instant wire for you. This instant wire keeps many of the great qualities of Kahyxen's instant wire from a couple years ago, while also improving in some areas, most notably being much easier to build. The main functional difference between these two is how we remove power from the final rail without updating other rails. Kahyxen's wire uses this flat rail-based diode, which allows this rail to keep the others powered without actually sending any block updates, and therefore makes it butted. Meanwhile, the new wire goes back to the days of old. The rails don't update each other if they don't change state, so just keep the final rail always powered, but without permanently powering the other rails. So yeah, it works like this, and then it's butted. And in the past, this was generally done by having a massive tail so that the power runs out at just the right spot. However, the new wire simply uses the fact that rail power flow can't reverse directions. So just as before, this part does not stay powered, but when we power here, it does stay powered, and removing this causes it to be butted. This ends up making it much simpler to build, though it does require an extra couple of blocks. But do remember, fewer blocks isn't always necessarily simpler, especially when you end up needing blocks in a state that the game really doesn't want them to be in. And in my experience so far, the benefits are well worth the added cost. For starters, because this wire is built upwards instead of down, this allows it to be built directly on flat surfaces and is much more survival friendly. Building the wire is as easy as it gets. No matter what direction you build it in, there's effectively no rail manipulation required. As long as you place the rails from top to bottom, or from bottom to top, then you'll never really run into any issues. However, in case you do manage to build it wrong, you can simply break and replace the problematic rail to fix it. And in case it helps, just remember that any rail directly touching an observer should be slanted. Repairing it is also very easy, as you can break any rail at all and just put it right back, and worst case scenario, you just have to rebut it again. But you'll never need any rail manipulation to repair it. There's also a couple alternate forms. For example, you can lower that block down to give it a nice clean look on the top. Or in survival, you can use a torch to save a little bit of resources and possibly make it a little easier to place that block. But more interestingly, by powering this rail through a block, the range gets extended to a nice clean 18 blocks, though it doesn't quite mix well with the alternate powering methods, because yeah, it stays powered forever. Aside from being easier to build, this wire comes with another bonus feature. It is easier to pack together. You can stack it every 4 blocks, or every 3 staggered just 1 block apart. And the extended form stacks even more nicely. Either way, you don't actually have to worry about this rail connecting to the wire above, as it does not actually interfere with the function of either wire. Now technically, this packability was possible with the other wire, but in order to prevent this rail from updating the wire below, you either have to reverse the direction each time and therefore build half of them in the annoying direction, or you have to let it slowly drift off to the side as it goes up. Now let's look at how to break the wire, or more importantly, how to avoid breaking it. The easiest problem to have is when they're too close together, as this causes them to interfere with each other, so it can't actually power on the rest of the rail for the exact same reason that we're able to butt it in the first place. When facing the same direction, they need to be at least 9 blocks apart, like so, and that means 6 flat rails here. And this also goes for the extended form, or any combination of the two. It's just it would be a different number of flat rails required. But when pointing towards each other, they need to be at least 11 blocks apart. And if either of them are extended, they need to be at least 12 blocks apart. But what's really interesting is that if they point away from each other, The only limitation is that they can't touch, as the power can't actually cross this point in order for them to interfere. In fact, they actually more of just fix each other. And this also applies to the extended variant. And also, all the distances work out the same way if you mix it with Kahyxen's wire. But unless you're using this specific behavior right here, it's probably best just to still put them all in the same direction within a given wire. You can also have problems turning it on for the first time if you're working with corners or stretching them as far as possible, and just doing this, it doesn't work. All you have to do is power and depower it, and that makes sure that they're both turning off at the same time. Otherwise, one turns on, it turns the other off, and then it just goes back and forth until one of them breaks. Well, that's all I have to say for now about this wire. Obligatory press certain buttons or whatever if you like the thing, I don't care. Make sure you support trans rights.